Most people have great goals. I want to increase my income and lose weight and get out of debt and be thin and happy and healthy and have a wonderful family. But then they decide, but before I start, I'm going to take a vacation to a beautiful place called Someday Isle. And in my estimation, 80% of the population lives on Someday Isle. Someday I'll lose some weight, and someday I'll read that book and listen to that program and join the Yes Network, and someday I'll get out of debt, someday I'll increase my income, but it's always Someday Isle. If you want to be a great success, there's one simple rule, is vote yourself off the island for life. If you decide you're going to do something, do it. You know, they've done dozens and dozens of studies over the years. They find that there's one major difference between successful people and unsuccessful people. Is successful people launch. They start. They get on with it. They just do it. Unsuccessful people get the same ideas and the same information, but they've always got an excuse for not starting. Rule number 6 is that listening builds trust. Listening builds trust. Now, if you only remember one thing from today, remember this rule, because this rule will make you popular, it'll make you happy, it'll make you successful, and it'll ultimately make you rich. Leaders, in one of the best management studies done out of Harvard recently, they say leaders are excellent listeners. Leaders are not people who talk and give orders and tell this. Leaders go around and ask a lot of questions. And as a result, they get a lot of very good information and a good understanding of the decisions that need to be made. Leaders are great listeners. Top salespeople are superb listeners. So listening builds trust. So one-to-one relationship between asking questions and getting a chance to listen and building trust, and trust is what leads to the sale. We say, first of all, there are no sales without objections. Objections indicate interest. There are no sales without objections. Objections indicate interest. If you're talking to a prospect and the prospect is sitting there impassively not responding, is this a good sign? No. But if the prospect is saying, what about this, and what about that, and how does this work, and everything else, the more questions they ask, the more likely it is that they will buy. Based on our thousands of video interviews or video reviews, we find that successful sales have twice as many objections as unsuccessful sales. And this is because people process information in different ways. Some people process information by agreement. They look for parallels with what you're saying. Others process information by disagreement, by arguing. What about this and what about that? And will it do this? And how do I know it'll do that? And so on. So sometimes you'll get every kind of objection you could imagine. Don't want it, don't need it, can't use it, can't afford it, not the market right now. Okay, I'll take it. Ever had that? And you go, huh? Well, they're just processing your sales order by removing all the mental barriers that they have to buying. So when I used to get objections, I'd get very upset, and I'd start to feel depressed inside, and I think my product's no good, and the market's no good, and I'm no good. And then I realized later that objections are good. There's a concept in selling called seeding. Seeding is where you just sort of drop what we call by the ways in the course of your sales conversation. When you say, oh, by the way, people pick it up and file it away, but it's not part of your presentation. Here's one of the best by the ways. You say, oh, by the way, people say we give the very best after-sales service they've ever experienced. By the way, our customers say that they have fewer problems with this than any machine that they've ever used. By the way, people that I've dealt with say this wonderful thing about our product. We take good care of them afterwards. We're fast and responsive if they have any problems or complaints, by the way. Because what we know is this, is if a customer has even a single objection that they have not asked you, that they're holding on to, they won't buy. That's why at the end of the sale they say, well, let me think it over. Leave it with me, let me think it over. Do you know what that means? It means goodbye forever. We will never meet again. You've blown it. I'll never take your phone calls. I'll never respond to your voicemail messages. In fact, I'm going to disappear. Because whenever you call me, you'll find that I'm not there or I'm in a meeting. Have you ever called people who've gone into 3-year meetings after meeting with you? 7 is the directive close. Now, the directive close is the #1 top of the hit parade close used by more of the highest paid salespeople in more industries worldwide than any other close. And it's very simple. You say, Mr. Prospect, does this make sense to you? Prospect says, yes, it does. You say, well, then, the next step is. Well, then, the next step is. And you take complete control of the sale. You assume that the customer has decided to buy. The next step is, and then you go on to explain what is called the plan of action. I'll need a check from you for this amount. I'll need your authorization on these forms. I'll get it back to the office. It'll be out to you in about 7 days. We'll set you up with an account and a service contract. In other words, you talk as though the person, by saying, yes, it makes sense, has said, yes, I'll take it. Now what happens? You say, well, then the next step is this. And then you use these magic words. And these are the magic words. And I'll take care of all the details. And the way you do it is with a question. When the prospect says, well, let me think it over, remember that old Bob Dylan song, when you ain't got nothing, you got nothing to lose. Well, when the prospect says, I want to think it over, if you walk out, you've lost it forever. You've wasted all the time you've invested in building this prospect. So you've got nothing to lose here. So therefore, give it a shot. And I have had people come to me after using this and say, I saved the sale. I couldn't believe it. I lost the sale. I was on the way out and I remembered the words. I remembered the words and I said the words and I got the sale. So here are the words. You say, Mr. Prospect, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. This is an important decision. And obviously, you have a good reason for wanting to think it over. Obviously, you have a good reason for wanting to think it over. Do you mind if I ask what it is? Is it the price? And then you remain perfectly silent. Now remain perfectly silent. The prospect can say one of two things. Yes, it's the price, or no, it's not. If they say, yes, it's the price, what do you say? If they say, yes, it's the price, you say, how far apart are we? Why do you say that? Why do you feel that way? Is price your only concern? How do you mean exactly? What if they say, no, it's not the price? Then these are the words that you use. You use a may I ask question. Because what we have found is if it's not the price, it's something that they're emotionally sensitive about. So you treat this objection or this concern with great sensitivity. You say, then may I ask what it is? Then may I ask what it is? It's almost impossible not to answer a may I ask question. Then may I ask what it is? And then remain perfectly silent. And very often they'll say, well, it's this. You say, Mr. Prospect, if we could satisfy you on that point, would you take it? And I've had people say, I made the sale because I remembered the words. And this is so powerful, by the way, that the next time you're out with a prospect and they say, let me think it over, you say, let me think it over. Oh, hold on a second. Hold on a second. I was in a course just the other day. I got the answer for that. All right. That is a good idea. This is an important decision. And obviously you have a good reason for saying that. Do you mind if I ask what it is? Is it the price? Now, the reason I do that, you'll notice that it's powerful even if it's read badly. Because you have now asked a question and you have taken control and you now have a chance to save the sale. You now have a chance to make the sale. Please understand this. Sometimes, and here's the rule, you're probably only one skill away from doubling your income right now. You're probably only one skill away from doubling your income right now. And you know what that skill is. Everybody knows what the skill is. They know if I was really good at prospecting, I could double my income. If I was really good at closing, I could double my income. If I was really good at overcoming the key objections, I could double my income. In other words, we all know what it is in our heart of hearts. And your job is to figure out what it is and set it as a goal and make a plan and work on it until you've mastered that skill.